And you can go with them. Welcome back to the temple on this beautiful 6th day of Navrtri. And it's our day we honor our Kumaris, so we're happy to have some children here with us today and many people from around the country and the world. So Bole Baba Ki Jai will begin with a chant, O Mata, O Mata. Haidakhandi, O Mata, O Mata, O Mata, Haidakhandi, O Mata, O Mata, Haidakhandi, O Mata, O Mata. Haidakhandi. Everybody gather around, children particularly, because there's going to be some questions with this story. So I'll be reading it to you. Story time. Story time, yay. And parents can come up with their children too. It doesn't have to be just children, because they may need help answering the questions. I don't know. Sometimes. Some of you may have heard this story before, I don't know. But as I said at the fire ceremony, it's a story about a beautiful princess. And so, let's start with this beginning. So, once upon a time, that's how every story starts, doesn't it? Once upon a time, there was a great king, Saryati, who was like a god on the earth. He had many different wives. In those days, kings would have lots of wives. But from them all, he had just one daughter, one child only, and her name was Sukanya. The father and all his wives doted on that princess, and she was like a piece of the moon, fallen into the world. No, not far from the king's capital was a lake as delectable as Matsarava. And there was a god that led down into the lake, and they loved to go there. There were beautiful fish there, and lotuses on the lake, birds and swans, and so beautiful. Peacocks lived in those woods, dancing to the rhythms of the seasons, their fans like scintillating miracles in the world. From the branches above, birds lit up the air with snatches of song, so enthralling that all the jungle creatures paused in rapture to hear them. In the heart of the forest was a secret cove, a grove where a great rishi lived. His name was Javana Maharishi, and he lived and he did so much meditation. That Muni had taken a vow of moan, so he was in silence, he never talked. And as he sat with his breath perfectly controlled, he neither ate nor drank anything. Do you eat or drink anything?
I do.
We can eat it, yeah, but not this one. He meditated upon the ultimate truth. So immaculate was this Muni's tapasya, it's called when they do deep meditation. A great anthill grew over him. So he was so involved with his meditation, he didn't even notice that all this sound. Have you ever seen an anthill? Yeah. Anthill just grew right over him. And on top of that, a beautiful creeper, a beautiful flower, a vine, wound itself around that anthill. But still, the Muni sat in silent meditation. He was lost within himself in the timeless Atman. One day, the king, Saryata, came to the lake with some of his wives and his beautiful daughter, Sukanya, and her sakis, her servants. The king and his women waded into the water to bathe. Meanwhile, Sukanya and her friends began to explore the woods, plucking flowers to make garlands of the hair. Sukanya's anklets chimed delicately in the spring air as she ran here and there, finding jasmine bushes, until suddenly she came to the anthill where that Muni, that holy man, was absorbed in his meditation. The princess went near and saw 2 holes in the anthill covered over with jasmine. They shone strangely as if maybe there were 2 fireflies in there, and they were trapped inside. Intrigued, Sukanya picked up a sharp branch with thorns, and the playful princess, thinking it was an anthill before her with 2 shining holes, she poked them smartly with the thorn branch. Without knowing what she did, Sukanya put out the eyes of the holy man, poked his eyes. His roars of agony rang through the forest, and Sukanya fled through the trees. Then the strangest thing happened. All the king's men and beasts suddenly got sick to their stomach. And all of them did, all at once. And the king could not figure out what was going on. The king was beside himself. He roared, "Who has cast the spell that suddenly we're all sick to our stomach? Have that person found and punished." One of his trusted counselors said, "Sir, the Maharishi Chivana, who's the holy man, sits in meditation in these woods. I fear someone in our party has provoked his wrath, and this is his curse." So everybody's feeling sick, right? But the king's soldiers all said, "None of us have even been near the Muni." And the king's women and friends said the same thing. Then the princess said, "Father, I saw a big anthill in the forest. There were 2 holes in it through which I could see 2 shining fireflies. I poked them with a sharp stick, and I heard a ghostly voice cry, 'Ah, I'm blind. I'm killed.' I saw the end of the stick was red and wet, and I threw it down and ran from there in terror." The king realized his daughter must have unwittingly disturbed the Muni Chivana, the great holy man. He had no idea what she had actually done. He hurried to the anthill, from which anguished groans and cries came. The king broke the hardened hill and saw the Muni inside, holding his eyes that bled through his palms. The king quickly had the Muni's face bound with medicinal herbs to ease his pain. Then he stood before the Muni with his folded hands and said, "Holy One, my daughter did not realize what she had done. I beg you, Lord, forgive her. Do not curse my child." Muni knew from his voice how genuinely truthful he was, and that he was distressed. He said gently, "King, I am not angry with your child. Indeed, I have not cursed her at all. But tell me, King, how will I live? I am old and infirm by my long tapasya meditation, and now your daughter has blinded me. I don't know how I shall survive anymore." The king said, "I have a host of servants who will look after you, my lord." But the holy man said, "I doubt they will care for me very long. Servants are not relations. They're not family. And how will they love a helpless man? No, that's insufficient atonement for my injury. If you truly want to atone, let your daughter who did this dreadful thing stay with me and look after my needs." He smiled. "If she does, I think this strange illness that has overcome all of you and your animals will vanish gently, O king. Otherwise, all of the animals will die, and all of you will die with this terrible illness." The king was shocked. He thought to himself, "My child is young. She's the most beautiful thing in the world. And this Muni is old and ugly, and now he's even blind. How my daughter would ever be happy with this man? How will he take care of her?" The king was distraught, and he asked Chavina, the holy man, for some time to consider his proposition, for it had taken him by surprise. Meanwhile, the king gathered his advisors around him and asked them in despair, "What shall I do now? If I do not give my child to the Muni, we will all die of this strange sickness." Those wise men said, "But how can you even think of your delicate child with this ugly old man?" So what do you think? What should the king do?
I think you should give the daughter to the old man.
You think so?
And something magic would happen.
Some magic. Oh, and have you read this story before? I know it's your 7th.
No, I just made this up.
Great. Okay. Well, he's given away a little bit of the punchline, but we'll go on. Very well done. Okay. But the ministers are saying, how can you do that? You can't do that. Can't get your beautiful, beautiful daughter to this ugly old man. But suddenly, a clear, bright voice spoke to the anguished king. Father, are you worried for my sake, that I will not be happy? Don't be anxious, my lord. Nothing will make me happier than to be given the chance to serve this rishi. I have blinded him so wantonly. I did it. The king clasped her to him and cried, but have you seen the rishi, my child? He's old, ugly, and feeble, and as I've heard, he's very irritable or gets angry easily as well. Then he lives here in the midst of this jungle. You have grown up in the palace. You will have to bear this life in the wilderness with no servants to attend you, but a servant yourself. Who are these old man's relatives and friends? What wealth does he have that he can look after you, my child? Why, to my mind, the choice is clear. It is better that my man and I die here than for me to give you to this rishi to be his bride. She began to speak, but he held up his hand and cried, say no more. I will not give you to this old man. But his daughter said, at least hear me, old father, out father. I will not be unhappy in the forest. I adore the jungle, its sights and sounds, its scents, its untamed creatures, its lakes and streams, its trees and flowers, its birds. I have known all the worldly pleasures any soul needs for a lifetime. Now the forest attracts me more than the palace. She lowered her voice, and the Muni has such a beautiful aura or presence around him. I am drawn powerfully to him, Father. I will be perfectly happy serving him and learning wisdom at his feet. You need not have any fear. I will be a chaste wife and bring no sin upon myself or any shame to you. So she was able to see his beauty rather than the exterior beauty that sometimes we look, but she seemed to be able to see his soul more. The king's ministers stood dumbfounded to listen to the princess. She spoke quietly and with dignity, and it was obvious she meant what she said. The king hesitated only for another moment. Then he took his child hand and led it to the Muni, the holy man. Bowing to the Muni, the king placed his daughter's lissome hand into the sage's gnarled one. He said, Holy One, I give this child of mine to you for your service. The king's priests chanted the Vedas, and the marriage was sanctified. At once, the strange illness that had taken over all the kings and his people and the animals left them, and they were well again. His heart was heavy, though, the king, as he turned to go. But Sukanya, the princess, called him back, and she took off her golden ornaments, gave them to him, and said, God has blessed me with skin smooth as honey. I have no need for these costly clothes or silks or jewels. I mean to wear tree bark, like the wives of any rishi, to serve my husband so devotedly that your name, Father, will be legend in the three worlds. Deeply moved, her father had some tree bark fetched and gave them to her, but when he saw her clad in these rough garments, tears sprang in his eyes. All of his queens wept to see the princess transformed suddenly into the rishi's bride. The king could not bear it at all, and he turned back quickly to his city. Well, guess what happens next, Owen?
Magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Magic, that's right.
Well, magic, or yeah, we also can call it a miracle, because when we say our prayers, often they say
Or sword in the stone. When the little boy takes the sword out, he's the king. That's a miracle.
This is a similar story.
Or
That's
just,
right.
or just like the minions. Remember King Bob? The movie King Bob with the minions?
No, his name wasn't King Bob. I have a grandpa called Grandpa King.
Grandpa King, wonderful.
That's
Okay,
my
so guess what happened?
What?
So he had a little hut, and she lived in there with him, And every day she would fix his food and bring it to him with so much love. And when he needed to bathe, she would help him bathe because he couldn't see anymore. Can you imagine how it is if you can't see?
Yeah,
And
your eyes are closed.
exactly, and they're out in the forest. So she would walk to get the water from the river and bring the water for him to drink and to bathe with. And she'd set up his little prayer area so he could say his prayers. And at night she would massage his feet because he was so old. And she would curl up at his feet and fall asleep, exhausted after the day's chores, and as happy as she could be. The lovely princess, raised in a palace with 100 maids, attending on her every whim, now served the old and blind Moody, as few women had ever served their husbands. Now, one day, Surya Deva's son, so Surya Deva is the son, and he has 2 children called the Ashram twins, okay? So one time the Ashram twins arrived in the forest where Sukanya and Muni lived, and Sukanya was returning to the ashram, to the hut, through the jungle with water she had drawn from the river where she had also bathed. The brilliant Ashram twins saw her, because these were gods, and they're beautiful, and stood transfixed by her beauty. Actually, their auras lit up. So the auras is the light around you, and they all became very bright because she was so beautiful. One of them said, "Lovely one, who are you? Whose daughter? Who's your husband? Do you have one? Why, you are as beautiful as Lakshmi herself." The other Ashvin was not far behind. In an ecstasy, he said, "Ah, your feet are as fragile as lotus petals. How is it that you go barefoot in this forest? You are certainly a princess. Where are your servants? Why are you carrying this water all by yourself?" His twin took up again, "The deer and the birds in this vana are so fortunate that they can see you whenever they like. The earth here is more blessed than Devaloka, that your feet walk upon us. Tell us if you are a princess or a goddess." Shyly Sukanya said to the twins, "I am King Saryati's daughter and the wife of Naharishi Chirana, who has his ashram in the forest. Won't you come to my husband's hermitage and bless it?" But the Ashvin twins cried, "A jewel like you and that old man's wife? Why, you are like a streak of lightning frozen in time. We have never seen anybody like you, even in the Devaloka. You should wear the clothes of heaven around you delicately, not that tree bark. You should adorn your body with ornaments." "Ah, how exquisite you are," said the twin, Follies. "You have been given to a blind husband, and an old one. God hasn't been kind to you. Why, he hasn't been just." And then they went on and said, "You're so beautiful. Why don't you run away and become our wives?" And she gets pretty upset with that. I bet, yeah. The Princess Sukanya trembled when she heard their flagrant advances, but she controlled herself and said levelly, "You are Surya Deva's son. You're the god's son. And they say that there's nothing you do not know in the 3 worlds. But then you should know that I'm a chaste woman. You are Kasapa Muni's grandsons. How can you speak to me like that? I'm a wife, a rishi's wife besides, and you are asking me to come away with you for pleasure's sake? I beg you, Devas, leave me in peace and go away from here. Otherwise, I will curse you." Now her eyes glittered dangerously, and they knew that she was indeed chaste. Those splendid gods smiled at her and said, "Chastity like yours, or honesty and loyalty like yours, is hardly mortal. We are the physicians of heaven. There is nothing we cannot do." Here comes the magic. Are you listening, Owen?
Yeah.
Knowing his twin's mind as if it was his own, his brother said, smiling brightly, "We have a boon for you, Sukanya. We will make your old husband as radiant and handsome as ourselves. Why, we will restore even his sight to him, and he will be as youthful as we are." She stood breathlessly. The other Ashram said, but there is a condition. When we have transformed the holy man, he will look exactly like us. So you won't be able to tell him or us apart. Then you must choose one of them, one of the three of us, for your husband. She gasped at the thought and ran back to the Muni's hut, and who sat lost in his meditation. She burst in on his contemplation and cried, my Lord, the Ashram twins are here in our jungle. Surya's son said that to me that they would make you young and handsome as they are, and they would restore your sight. But there is a condition. You would look exactly like them, and I would not be able to tell the difference between them and you. And then I must choose one of the three to be my husband. So, what do you think the Muni told her to?
Don't worry. Don't worry.
So you think don't worry? So he said, do it, have them. And
I've heard this story before.
Oh, did I tell it before? Anyway, don't tell him, okay. And you think maybe she shouldn't take the risk, it's too risky?
No, I think that she shouldn't do it, and she will choose the wrong one.
You're afraid she'll choose the wrong one?
Yeah, she would choose the one. She would choose the wrong one.
Okay, well, let's see. Let's go on with the story. So, she says to her husband, husband, what shall I do? And the Muni cried, what is there to think about? Bring the Ashrams here at once and agree to their conditions. So like the wind, Sukanya ran back through the forest to the splendid Ashram twins. I mean, these are gods. They're beautiful. So handsome. And she said, Devas, I will do as you ask. Come with me and transform my husband. The Ashrams came with her to the ashram. They said, let us go to the lake and bathe in it. And Sukanya led her husband to the water by his hands. On its bank, the two gods from Devaloka said, Muni, enter the lake and immerse yourself. Sukanya helped the rishi into the clear water. As he waded cautiously in, the Ashrams also went with him. On either side of the rishi, they took his hands, led him into the deep enough water so that all three of them could immerse themselves entirely. So they did, as Sukanya watched them. They submerged for a long moment, and when they emerged again, the ancient Muni, the old man, had vanished, and instead 3 shining gods walked out of the lake. All 3 were young, wore the same ornaments, and each one was exactly like the others. They said to her all together, now choose one of us whom you love best to be your husband. And their voices were exactly the same too. For her life, the princess, which she felt was actually at stake at this point, she could not tell who her husband was. Sukanya could not tell one from the other. She thought that perhaps the third figure of life was just another deva. Trembling, she began to meditate on the Divine Mother, the Devi Bhagavati. So this is one of the host ideas of the story, is that when we're in a problem, it's really a good time to go quiet inside and pray.
And if she chooses the middle or the side, the middle might be the right one, or the side might be the right one.
We don't know, but what she's doing is very smart. She's praying to the Divine Mother for help. So anytime you can remember the Divine Mother like that, or like Mother Nature, whatever.
Well, the earth made us, and the sun made us to live.
So, and these are the sun's sons. So.
And the trees let us breathe.
Exactly. So we
and
can.
And the dirt make us wild and half wild and not wild.
Nice.
We're half wild and not half wild.
So whatever brings you peace when you're in a predicament, because wouldn't you say that poor Sukanya is in a bit of a predicament right now? It's a time to be quiet and pray to whatever form that you get inspiration from. Yes?
Did you know plants breathe oxygen at night?
Really?
plants are alive.
They are alive. Okay, so let's hear what happened now. So right now the princess is meditating. She's praying. She's saying, help me. Okay, I have to find my place, sorry. She says, okay, she's praying to the Divine Mother. She says, Mother of the worlds, Sukanya prayed desperately. I offer myself at your feet. Preserve my chastity, my loyalty to my husband. Show me which of these is my true husband. Moved by the young woman's sincerity, the Divine Mother blessed her with a subtle, it's called Sattva Gyan, so blessed her with extra special knowledge. And again, Sukanya looked at the three devas before her, and they were identical. But now, her mind clearly knew which one was her husband, and she went up to him and took his hand, saying, this is my Lord Chaitanya, and I choose him for my husband.
It's the middle one.
Yay!
I knew so.
You knew it. And the Ashrams were enchanted. They cried, there is no one as loyal and chaste and beloved as our Sukanya. We bless you all. So, Jai Mahamaya ki, Jai Mata ki. So many lessons in this beautiful about choosing somebody to love from their heart beauty, even if they might be decrepit, and to pray.
Even can brief too. When I go in my field where my goats feed, I go crazy and I actually eat the grass. And if you eat the sweetness in the grass, it will help you grow and survive for a long time.
Really? Well, that's wonderful. Well, now, you've all been great. So if you all sit there, we're going to ask some of our adult people to go behind where we left all the bags and bring them out. Can several elders go? All right, now sit quietly. We've got several people to come and help. Come in, please. You're all welcome. Go. And if the adults can help dress the children. Remember, these are our young gods and goddesses.
The blue bags are for boys. And the pink ones are for girls. If some can be big and some can be small. Pink. Blue is my favorite color.
So if the adults can help them get dressed, that would be lovely. And here's more children. So thank you for joining us on this rather wild Children's Day. Well, the children get dressed as little gods and goddesses. And we'll be back tomorrow morning at 6:15 for the Paduka Puja. Bole Baba Ki.